Hey all, Ron here from Military Images Magazine with a new episode of Life on the Civil War Research Trail. Last week, I did a video that included some quotes from the writings of Adjutant Robert Thompson Coles of the 4th Alabama Infantry. Coles's history of the regiment was published in the 1990s, and it is quite a good read. The quotes that I used were illustrating some of the activity around the Battle of Gettysburg, and I received quite a bit of commentary from fans of the book after doing that video. One of the book fans had a particular passage that really resonated with them. And so I took a look and I thought it was quite nicely done. So I thought that I would read it for all of you since it was a request to take a look at that passage and read it if possible on a future video. So here we are. So Robert Thompson Coles, his book is particularly well done, I think, because he really gets at some of the human aspects of the life of a soldier and what it's like to be in battle, giving some sense of the joys and sorrows, the triumph and tribulation. And so this particular passage is very narrowly focused. So I wanted to open it up a little bit to give you a bit of context. And I chose a 2-week period from June 14th to June 28th of 1863. It's the time when the 4th and the rest of the Army of Northern Virginia are making their way from Virginia across the Potomac on their way into Pennsylvania. And so this period from the 14th to the 28th has some interesting commentary as the regiment is making its way. So let's get to this passage to give you the sense of what it was like if you were marching through the Maryland and Pennsylvania countryside and as you're marching, you're coming into close proximity of General John Bell Hood, and you're also under very strict orders from the commanding general, Robert E. Lee, not to mess with anyone's property. And there's a couple little turns of phrase that I think you'll find interesting. So here we go. The night of June 14th, 1863, on to the 28th. That night, the 14th, saw the 4th Alabama go into bivouac near the Potomac, not far from Falling Waters. The next morning, about 8 o'clock, we were wading across the Potomac into Maryland at Williamsport. Hill's Corps crossed at the same time below us at Shepherdstown. We marched out a short distance from the town and halted. General Hood secured several barrels of whiskey and had surgeons issue a certain quantity to each member of the division. We crossed the line into Pennsylvania and camped in the neighborhood of Greencastle, Pennsylvania. We had breakfasted in Virginia, dined and wined in Maryland, and taken supper in Pennsylvania. It was reported by some that we had marched in 4 states that day, the 4th being in a state of intoxication. General Lee scarcely gave us time to cross the Potomac before he gave us to understand that the destruction of personal property, the burning of rails, even for cooking or any other purpose, was positively forbidden. I saw one evening after we had gone into bivouac a soldier run a chicken under General Hood's chair and catch it, and the general appeared perfectly unconscious of the act. So intent was he on examining a map while sitting in the yard of a Pennsylvania citizen. This was the only piece of apparent wantonness I saw perpetuated during our campaign in Pennsylvania, and doubtless, in this instance, the owner had obtained full value for his property. For miles and miles, the Army of Northern Virginia marched along roads flanked on both sides by fields of luxuriantly waving corn and wheat, and all remained untouched. On the 27th of June, the regiment passed through Greencastle and reached Chambersburg that evening. Marching 2 miles beyond the town, we went into camp. On Sunday, the 28th, we rested. The Army of Virginia was, on this day, in the following positions: Longstreet and Hill at and near Chambersburg, Ewell with 2 divisions of his corps at Carlisle, a day's march from Harrisburg. Early, with the 3rd Division of Ewell's corps, was advancing east from South Mountain to York. So, there you have it, the passage from the regimental history of the 4th Alabama by Robert Thompson Coles. Remember, it's ending on June 28, 1863. You get the sense of the Army marching. Life is relatively carefree as they're going through these roads, marching past these fields of corn and wheat. And of course, we all know that in 3 days, the bucolic fields and the what seems like a relatively relaxing march through the countryside turns into a struggle for life and death. In fact, for the life and death of the Confederacy, if you will, on those first days, those early days of July 1863. So thanks for listening to this passage. We'll see you on the next episode of Life on the Civil War Research Trail.